Well, let's start. More people will join us if they want to. My name is Ekaterina, and I'm an analyst. Hello, my name is Ksenia, and I'm researching the user experience. We work at a company called Contour. This is the company which develops ecosystemic products for businesses. All of us are clients of different companies. We buy products and services. And as clients, we are used that our interests are always at the center and the focus of their attention. And companies catch on this trend and they start developing experience driven products. But is that enough to make the client happy? A small story about this. I'm sure all of you have ordered a taxi using a service. It's quite convenient. Usually take your cell, you choose a tariff, you're shown how long it'll take for the car to reach your place of residence, how long the journey will take. Everything is quite cool and convenient. Now the cab arrives, you go down, and the driver tells you, "Can you please cancel the order? I'm not going." Have you had this similar situation before? I'm sure all of us have experienced it at least once. And as a client, I'm asking you, why are you not going to take this journey because you have just arrived? And he answers me, "You know what? When you're ordering the cab, I only see where to pick you up. I don't, and I learned about the final destination only when I reach you. But I'm not going to the other end of the city. Please cancel because I have other things to attend to." We're shocked. We cancel the order. You get another car, and everything seems to be okay. You even make it on time, and tech supports get in touch with you, giving you a coupon for the next drive. But the user experience is not that good from this drive, right? And this example is a great example of that the company is focusing on the interests of the client. And going back to the question whether it is enough to focus on the interests of the client to make him satisfied, the answer is quite self-evident. In spite of all the actions of the company, the client leaves with a negative experience. Sometimes they forget about other participants of the client. The experience driven approach is exactly the approach when we take into consideration all the stakeholders of the process and find a nice balance between them. In our product, we also have not only clients who pay us money, but also internal employees who are also parts of the process. And at one moment in time, we, as most of the companies, focused when we were developing our product on the client, and sometimes we neglected the experience of our people. And I'm going to tell you a story what it has led to. A few words about our product so that you can relate to our story better. We're doing automation for the certificates of electronic signature among our clients, our legal and business entities, be it managers and individual entrepreneurs. But why would our clients need an electronic signature? Electronic signatures is what organizations need to submit their reports to the tax agency or to exchange documents with other companies. And individuals needed to submit documents to the university without having to go there in person. A few words about our process. When a client comes to us to get an electronic signature certificate, we prepare an application. Application has to be filled in. It can be done by either the client in their personal cabinet or with the use of the manager of the service center. This is the person which accompanies our client from the very beginning of the application submission until the electronic signature is granted to the client. After the filling in of the application, they need to come in with their ID documents to confirm their identity. It is done by the manager in the service center. Then we send it to the certifying center. That's the name of all the companies who are issuing and granting the electronic signature. They employ operators who are checking the correctness of the application. If it is correct, they issue a certificate for electronic signature. It's done by an operator, and then the client gets it, and they can install it on their drive and use it later on. So basically, we have a total of 3 target groups to make sure that the client gets the electronic signature. We need to connect the manager of the service center and the certification center operators. These are the 3 main audiences, 3 target groups, 3 services, 3 development groups. Now we're going to tell you a story about the certifying center operator who is not in direct link with the client, but their task is to verify the application and grant the certificate or not grant it, but without a focus on the client. Our story: first, we had a normal life. What was the normal life for us? We were researching the processes of our operators when we wanted to roll out a new feature. We collected feedback after the release of new features. Sometimes they themselves approached us with their feedback through our managers. Well, no matter how you look at it, we still somehow communicated with them. We collected feedback and studied the processes, but we have never done it holistically, considering what is being done by our operators beyond the boundaries of our service. And seemingly, it made our life quite nice, carefree, but autumn last year, one story happened. In the fall last year, the time of waiting for the results of the verification has grown considerably. We saw it in our metrics, but we thought it was because of the autumn peak of reports received by the tax agents, and we have received a lot of clients. And when this peak will blow over, everything will settle down. Maybe the day was not good, and the analyst from the neighboring team met the certifying agents, operators, and the head of the operators shared what is really going on. That for a number of months, the number of applications they have been receiving is growing and growing, and we are client-centric. Before that, we looked at the metrics in terms of how much time the client had to wait. Everything seemed okay there. Why? Because our operators sometimes did overtime in order to handle all this workload, but even overtime cannot save us with that. We realized that we have to do something about it. We arranged a brainstorm, get together with the operators. We have generated a lot of small but improvements. Eventually, we have redone many things. We have implemented our improvements and became better. Seemingly a normal process. We got together, we did a brainstorm and made it better. But why are we telling you about this? If it were a normal working process, when in a normal working order we would have learned about the problems of our users, I think nothing would have changed here, and we would be telling you stories like this. But we have learned from our other analysts from a neighboring team. Our users did not approach us, and we have learned about that critical problem when everybody was feeling bad. The clients were feeling bad because they had to wait for a long time for the results of the verifications not to issue a certificate. That's why they approached us. The operators had a big time overload. Managers of the certifying centers had negative feedback from the clients because managers were representatives of our company for clients, and they had a lot of overtime because to make sure that they correct everything after brainstorm, we were regrouping ourselves, dropping whatever we were doing at this moment. So basically, it was a not normal crisis situation. We realized that it shouldn't continue like this and decided to do something about it. What did we do? First, we studied the current situation, why the problem appeared in the first place. We spoke to the representatives of operators and the members of the development team and realized one fundamental thing. The development and operators realize the importance of different tasks differently. We, as a development team, did not understand why the small or not so small change, which we thought should not affect the process of our users in any way, why they're so important for them. And operators didn't understand how to deliver this assignments to us to make sure that we implement them when at the very beginning and not when it became really bad. We have realized that we as a development team do not fully realize all the processes performed by our operators. We know what they're doing in our service, but what they're doing beyond its boundaries, we didn't understand. we have decided that we need to study the whole process of their work comprehensively, including also what they do beyond our service. First thing we did, we have drawn the flow chart of the certificate issuance. You don't need to go into the detail. Colors are more important here. White highlights the stages where we connect clients or the managers of service centers. Red boxes are automatic modes, and below is where our operators certifying the assessments are working, and a small reference to the initial story about how it affected the client satisfaction level, why we had to look at the scenario of operators holistically when both clients and managers are there. We had to understand at what stage the certifying center operators are connecting. That's why we had to visualize it like this. And first thing we did, we have started the processes that were highlighted in orange, the scenarios which are understood by the certifying center operator. First thing we did, we have collected all the available information. We have collected all the available information in the team level, and what roles are performed by the certifying center operators, and we have collected all the artifacts of the previous center. And after collecting all this information, we have to understand what will be the subsequent instrument for the work and visualization, as long as we had to perform only one role of the operator of the certifying center, but different clearances. We have described different functional roles with characteristics of those functional roles and the levels of clearance, because depending on that, they could be used for different assignments. Also, we have used CGM instrument. Yes, initially it is used first of all for the client, but in our case we have used the same instrument and have adopted it for our needs. And we have organized a meeting for the representatives of the certifying center operators and the development team. We have prepared the template under which we could work and have described the functional roles to synchronize them in the process of our work when we will be visualizing the path. And this is what it visually looks like, the part of our scenario. CGM, you don't need to redefine print here. What is important, the orange color highlights our role of the certifying center operators, but as long as we have described the functional roles, they're highlighted in different colors on the right, but the actions which are involve the operators, we have identified them by hashtag or the sticker to show that only special functional roles are involved here. So the map had to show what kind of actions are performed by the certifying center operators, what is the driver for them to perform this action, what are the touch points here, so that the operator would understand what they do in our service and why they go beyond it. So we show what tasks they perform beyond the service and what kind of service it is. For instance, first thing they did, what we have noted for ourselves is that the operator, to perform one of the tasks, had to go beyond the framework of their workspace station and perform it elsewhere. And as long as we had to look at the whole holistic scenario, aside from the examples we noted problems here, we showed what problems an operator can encounter and look at the holistic scenario. An example for you what this kind of exercise provided to us. That's with, as Ksenia said, what we started with, we have retrieved the artifacts of the previous examinations and the teal colored card, for instance. We have such a card. Now I'm going to tell you what it's all about. So we had a process when the operators had to verify the applications received from the clients in a separate queue, in a separate interface. At that time, the client is sitting in the office of the service center, which means that they need it as fast as possible. We had some target-based metrics, and we saw that in about 15% of cases, the client has to wait longer than originally announced time frame. And we have studied why it happens. We spoke to the operator, and they told us that the thing is that they don't notice that the queue for the verification has received a new application. They don't always notice it, and they don't always go and verify it. Seemingly, if you do an interface solution and solve the problem like this, but as long as when preparing CGM, we spoke to different functional roles, then after we spoke to the managers of the operators, we realized that there is a flip side to this problem. Managers of operators told us that it is hard for them to accrue or calculate wages because of this, and for the verification of different types of documents, they're paid bonuses, some additional monies. And when we implemented the feature with the verification of certificates to make it quicker for the client, we have cut some corners without accruing additional wages or accruing additional rubles for the verification of these applications. Of course, we have realized that later we had to fix it, but it seemed at that moment in time that it can be cut as a corner because it doesn't affect the client in any way. Seemingly, what could go wrong here? But as long as our operators did not know about whether they're going to be paid this additional rubles for verifying the applications, and if yes, then how much. Many of them consciously did not verify anything in the newly generated queue. Seemingly, how can this cut corner affect the client? In no way, but it does. Operators don't attend to them, and clients have to wait. That was the second point when we have realized how strongly the experience of our employees affect the satisfaction of the client. And when we have realized that, we have understood that we want to improve the feedback from our operators, not to relate it to such a critical situation like here. And if they think that something is wrong, if they think that something doesn't work properly, we had to learn about it in real time. And that's why in the service where they do their things, we allow them to write directly to the development team, and they start to write. They start to write all sorts of things. They wrote about bugs whenever they found any. They wrote their proposals about how to improve the service that could have helped them do their work better. Depending on what they were writing to us, we worked differently on that. If it was about some bug reports, we were analyzing them whenever we received them, how critical they were, whether we had to go and fix them. If it is critical, we go and fix them. If it is just a request of some sort, then we process it not in real time, not at the same moment in time. We cluster them, and once every period of time, we deliver it to the development team as a feedback. But why should we involve the development team into the life of the user? First of all, the development team sees the result of their work. They do not simply develop a feature to do it in the first place, but they get a feedback from the user. If it was a problem that they solved, the user might also tell them about that, or they stop complaining about it. Also, there is a better understanding about the scenarios of the use of the user, and the team becomes more centric about the users, and they want to develop a more user-centric service. And to involve the development team, we have a special engagement instrument. In the very beginning, we had 3 audiences or target audiences: develop services for the clients, for people. You mean development team? Yes, development team. Thank you. And first instrument that they do would be the meeting about the releases and feedbacks. We do such meetings monthly basis. We tell them about the releases over the past 30 days. We'll look at the first statistics. We'll collect first metrics and feedback from our users. At the second part of this meeting, we tell them about the feedbacks that we have collected in the past month. We cluster these feedbacks and look dynamically what has changed in the process of our user experience. One of the ideas of this meeting is to make sure that the team plays on the side of the user by trying to imagine how they would approach the problem that the user is experiencing. Second instrument we use is observing the scenarios of the client, how they undergo the process of receiving electronic signature. When they submit the application for the certificate, our manager suggests them to go through the whole process of certification with our development team. By motivating them, that if they find it difficult, our development team will help them to make sure that the client moves on to the next stage. That's how we are following the real process of certification issuance.
Next tool, it's called free cash register. So with the help of this tool, each member of the development team might become a technical support employee. Depending on your objectives, You might sit down next to the technical support employee who is answering calls for your product and just listen what problems the clients have. Or after a short training, you might do it yourself. You will be responding the calls. When we do study our interfaces for the users, we also involve the development team for the usability testing so that they can have a look about how users plan to use the app or the feature. All these tools help us not only to involve the development team, but also uh, get them continuously involved and take into account the interests of the users. Uh, the case helped us to rethink the client's experience. So, this is the scheme. The largest bubble is our client experience, all the impressions that the client have when using our product. Yes, we knew that they don't interact. They interact with the managers, and there are impressions of that as well, and there's user scenarios. But in this particular situation, we realize that those users who are not directly interacting with our managers, they might create a certain impression of our product. And we should pay attention not only to the user experience of these particular um, employees, but employees in general. We're uh, not stopping at this. We realize the importance of all the audiences, that this all has an effect on the clients. Currently, we are preparing the global CGM, and we try to introduce the experience of our operators and management centers, even those employees who don't directly interact with the client. This is the process. Uh, the experience that we gained was very beneficial for the development team. We changed our backlog. Being the development team that is responsible for the operators, we have more tasks from the operators directly. We are dealing with their pains, with their issues, and we uh, mitigate those pains before they become critical. We don't lead to the situation when we fix it at a later stage. We do it earlier to prevent the situations when it's difficult to deal or to work with our service. It means that the workload is less. We don't have some extreme workloads. The quality of decisions has improved because we see all the scenarios of our users as a whole. We do see what users do outside of our service as well. When we plan to implement a new feature, the probability of resolving a problem is much higher because we know what our users do. And we have an opportunity to influence the work of our operators. When we have a task to optimize a process or to resolve a problem, we know what they do, including outside our service, and we understand that in order to achieve a good result, it's not enough to do it only inside our service. We need to change general processes. We might approach the manager of operators and tell them, we can do this or that to improve, but if you change your processes, it would be much better. And yeah, they might listen to us, of course. And it means that we approach the problem from both sides, from the development side and from the process side. The decisions quality assurance has improved since we involve the development team. All these scenarios and all the processes are well controlled, not only those attributed to the user. it's not only the analyst who knows all the scenarios. Every person in the development team can spot a problem, a missed scenario that will do something wrong. For example, a tester or a developer might say, well, let's think, maybe this scenario will be worse. And it means that the feature will not be brought to the release stage. I mean, the problem in this feature will not be brought to the release stage, and our clients will not face this problem. For an analyst, analysts have an ability to see scenario as a whole. It's a very good skill, very important one, because if you have a general view or image of a scenario, your decisions will be of high quality, meaning that you, being an analyst, are a good employee. You're efficient, better than yesterday. So, what is the benefit for operators? First of all, operators realize that they can also influence the service. They shouldn't just work with what they receive because they are given this. If something is inconvenient, if they believe that something needs to be improved, they need to inform and provide feedback. So the operators have the instruments for this influence. As I mentioned, they provide feedback. We deal with the operators' managers to get information about their problems and pains. Operators realized why we, being developers, didn't take certain tasks before, because we worked together with operators and we checked different kind of scenarios, including the scenarios beyond the service. We learned some very strange cases that we didn't think about before, because our users didn't inform us about that, because it happened outside of the service, so the users didn't inform us about these problems. Well, nevertheless, we still can help operators, not always, of course, but sometimes. And when we learned those scenarios, we got really surprised. And they realized that we didn't know about what they did outside of the service. So they realized that we are not just lazy guys they don't want to do or help them. And operators are not working extra hours. So what about the client? Clients have less problems and less clients have problems. Of course, clients didn't expect to have problems, but it happens that they might face certain issues and bugs. So the expectations coincide with the reality. They receive certificates with electronic signature faster, and there was a seamless transfer between different stages. And we, being a developer team, we improve communication between the client and our product. It means improving loyalty, and clients come back and bring their friends and colleagues. Conclusions? They might be useful for you as well. First of all, study scenarios of your user groups. Most probably there are audiences who are not your clients, like our operators or taxi drivers. Don't forget that their experience is important as well. Don't focus only on client experience. Take into account scenarios that are beyond your service. Don't be limited only with what users do inside your service, because you can influence what's happening beyond. Because what they do beyond the service, it has an effect on your service as well. Please use different tools in order to study client experience and adapt this to your needs and objectives. tries to strike a balance for all participants of the process and involve development team into the life of users with the ultimate goal of improving our service. That's that's it. Thank you for coming. If you have any questions, we'd be glad to answer the questions. I have a question. How did you persuade development to participate in this process together with the support? How do you persuade them to get involved so deeply? You mean CGM preparation, etc.? No, when you said that your development guys sat together with the technical support, listening to the calls that they received or the messages from the users. Well, in our company, we have this culture. We put ourselves in the client's shoes, trying to understand them. And this approach, sitting together and listening to the client's feedback, is very important because we have an understanding that we need to know the problems and pains of our users. We don't need even persuade them or make them do this. No, they do it themselves. They understand the importance. Those guys who are developing the services used by the end clients, they want to do it themselves. But how does it happen? In our case, if there are any questions about this service, the analyst talks to the technical support, talks to the users, collects feedback, and brings to the development team. You have analysts as well, maybe. And it means that the developer goes on his own, bypassing analysts, or how it works, how it complies with other kind of information that analysts have. Well, if we're talking about this Next Please or free cash register instrument, they do this so that the developers understand better the pains of the users. Well, this information also comes to the analysts. Analysts collect information, but the developers just go and sit with the support guys for better understanding of the problems. My name is Mikhail. I'm from X5 company. Thank you for your presentation. There is a stereotype that for internal process participants, it should not necessarily be convenient. You broke this myth. And it's good that you have the system for the in-house. Wouldn't it be simpler to digitalize all the steps, to apply metrics? CGM and GM requires a lot of time, but you could automate and you will see that some metrics are not implemented, and you will remedy this. You will talk to the operator, to the manager, etc. It seems to be more efficient, no? Well, we have metrics, definitely. The thing is, when metrics deviate from the standard ones, it's already quite late to fix it. You will need to be rushing to fix it. But if you talk to the user at the early stage, if you learn about the problem before it reveals itself in numbers, in metrics, you will not lead to poor metrics. And not necessarily a slight change in metrics signals about a big problem. Sometimes it's okay, but sometimes this small deviation means a big problem. So if you go and study each and every deviation from the normal, it also takes a lot of time. Questions? Okay, we need to choose the best question. Mikhail's question was the best. Thank you for asking this. So, thank you guys.